Attention in the steer barn, we need your breeding heifers to the show ring. All breeding heifers to the show ring.
Mic test, 1, 2. Well, good morning. It's an honor and a privilege to be here with you at the Eddy County Fair. Sort here through your heifer show this morning and work your way here into your steer show to follow. A really nice way to lead off with here this morning, two exceptional heifers. For me, though, it's awfully easy to lead off with the young man that precedes here in this particular pair, a heifer that works her way to the top very easy and will be your automatic champion here in your heifer show. At the ground, without a doubt, a sound constructed female, great big body, loaded with power, still got a nicely balanced look from the side. One, as you study her up front and you study her muscle pattern, her bone work, and just the way she's assembled, so feminine and so true in terms of her structure and the way she plants at the ground. Just a very, very good female to lead off with. The white flanked heifer that ends up second or reserve in this particular breed division, a heifer that you like a lot of things about. Really long spine, a really long-bodied kind of a heifer. The slick-haired female is probably a more performance-driven type of female. With that, I'd like to see just a shot more body in her to be a true competitor to the heifer that wins this particular class. But once again, still a good female their own right. Nice look from the side, good long-bodied, a very, very nice pair of females. Congratulations to each.
Your first place breeding heifer went to Mason Golden of Cottonwood 4-H, and your second went to Jace Carrasco of Loving 4-H. Attention in the steer bar, We are going to start the show at 10, so you have about 15 minutes. Again, 15 minutes, and then we're going to start. Your Class 1 steers will begin in 10 minutes. Again, Class 1 steers in 10 minutes. Please bring your Class 1 steers to the show ring. Class 1 steers to the show ring.
Good morning and welcome to the Eddy County Fair Market Cattle Show. This morning, sorting our cattle will be Jeff Jackson from Walnut Springs, Texas. Jeff graduated from Tarleton State with a bachelor's and master's degree in ruminant nutrition. Jeff and his wife Lauren and daughters Jalen and Adeline run a 1,200 head calf operation, and it's in 3 different states: North Central Texas, Southern Oklahoma, and Southeast Arkansas. They primarily focus on production of show cattle and seed stock bulls. Jeff has judged in almost every single state in the U.S., as well as many junior nationals, state and national fairs all across the U.S., including the National Western, the North American, the World Beef Expo, Fort Worth Stock Show, Houston, and a multitude of others. Jeff also has judged internationally, including in South America, Asia, Canada, and Mexico. Please give a hand to our judge today, Jeff Jackson.
Well, what an outstanding class to lead off with here in your steer show this morning. And I'm here to tell you, I knew coming to New Mexico we'd have some good cattle, but I guess I didn't think the first class of the day would quite start off this way. Ringside, ladies and gentlemen, there's 3 head out here that I think are just absolutely exceptional. But I'd be honest with you, and I'd be lying to you if I didn't tell you the calf that wins is simply a 1-horse race. The young man's black steer I lead off with does so rather handedly. As we start and we study this calf at the ground, there's no doubt he is one of the sounder structured individuals in the group. From there, he's big boned, he's big footed, and that just facilitates for so many things. So much topside mass, so much power, so much body, and then the young man gets him stopped and parked and put together. He is, without a doubt, the nicest balanced, highest quality profiling calf from the side. We couple all that together for a 1,000-pounder weighing almost 11. His handle quality is spot on as well. High-end individual to lead off with in this particular class. 2 and 3, if you ringside have your favorites and wanted to make some differences there, I sure wouldn't argue with you. For me, I love this young lady's blonde steer. You talk about one that's got the right kind of body shape, an outstanding set of running gear, a good look from the side, loaded with shape, loaded with power, just really a real world kind of an individual. I'm not going to tell you he's the longest, coolest neck, the neatest chested. He's not, but boy, this thing is sound, rugged, awesome body, big power. Young lady does a nice job showing him as well. Congratulations to you. On the standstill, I'm a sucker for redheads, and there's no doubt the red steer here in third is an absolute unit. Boy, when he quits fighting the halter and acts like a show animal, boy, this one here's got the look. Long choke neck, big stout square forearm in him, huge back, big ended, loaded with shape, really a high cutability kind of a calf. He doesn't want to act like a show calf, and I sure hate that for the young man, because boy, that thing has got the look from the side. There it is. You get the look of that calf, round body, choke neck, big back, big feet and wheels. Lots of power when you get right in behind him. To compare him to the 2 that goes ahead of him, I'd like to see him with just a shot more cover on him, maybe just a shot more rib cage in him, give him just a little more fat steer look. But you talk about one that's high cutability, got the look, and an outstanding show calf, without a doubt, that one there in third's a good animal. Yellow steer that ends up here in fourth, a calf that's got some nice parts and pieces, big hipped and big round bodied in this calf. He gets a little piecey as we study this calf from the side profile. He gets a little rounder out of his hip, a little plainer down through his shoulder, gets a little twisted on his fronts, just don't quite balance up as nice as those 3 that go ahead of him. The black steer that comes next, really a stout, powerful kind of an individual, kind of follows the same theme as this yellow steer that goes ahead of him. Got a lot of shape, a lot of body, and a lot of power. This black steer in particular, just need to change him in terms of his structure. Gets a little east and west up front for me, a little broken behind his blades, a little rounder out of his hip. Calf, I just want to rechange this one's structure for that guy to move up any higher. The baldy steer that comes next, I'll be honest with you, he's one that quickly grabs your attention when he's on the side profile. This calf balances up really, really nice. Great big bodied, and I love him from that respect. A calf that's got a tremendous look from the side, nicely balanced, good wheels. Young lady, I just need to see more to him. Comes at me a little narrow through his chest, leaves me not quite as shapely and powerful when you get right in behind the cattle. Still nicely balanced. A very good individual that ends up there. And we finish out with a pair of red steers here, both that are good and they're kind. They've got a nice look from the side. Just want to see more power to both these 2 cattle for them to move up any higher.
Please bring your Class 2 steers to the show ring. Class 2 steers to the show ring. Class 1, first place went to Caden Golden out of Artesia FFA. Second went to Jersey Smith Country Clovers. Third went to Jack Jerva Country Clovers. Fourth went to JC Smith Country Clovers. Fifth went to Leo Lopez III Country Clovers. Sixth went to Allie Elkins Pennyasco 4-H. Seventh went to Coy Burnett Pennyasco 4-H. And eighth went to Michaela Jefferson Blue Jeans and Boots.
Mic test. Well, once again, another high-quality class of steers here, and I guess in my opinion, it's a three-horse race in this particular group. I'm not going to come out and tell you that quickly one of these cattle at the top end of this group just quickly grabs my attention and says, hey, I'm the clear-cut winner. There's no doubt I'm your champion of this particular class. I think all three have class streaks. The gray steer for me, though, he just couples the most. When we get at the cattle on the standstill and we look at him from the side, he is the nicest balanced. He's true in terms of his structure when we ask him to get out and lead and the way he plants at the ground. The neatest thing about this calf is just how shapely he is. You get in behind him, he is my source of power in this particular group. He's the widest, he's the most three-dimensional as you study him down his top and out of his hip. You get right in behind the cattle. He's the most true and honest in terms of his general base width and power. I'd like to see him softer middle, softer middle. The calf, I'd like to see him just a bit nicer in terms of his handle quality from that respect. But once again, sound structure, good look, big time shape. He is without a doubt the show steer of this particular group. Just a really nice place for me to lead off with in this particular class. I absolutely love the calf here in second when you study him right in the center part of his body. You talk about one that's absolutely spot on in terms of handle quality, mellow over his 12th and 13th, so round and so robust in terms of his rib cage, a calf that gets out and moves really, really well as we pull him to the lead. For me, it's when you get in behind him, you like to change him. He's a little lower in his pin set, and as we study him compared to the cattle on either side of him, a little shorter body, just simply a little more conventional in his kind compared to those that surround him. The calf that comes here in third, boy, you like some things about this one, and first and foremost is this one's rib cage, built just like the calf that goes ahead of him. Young ladies, simply for me, it's when I get in behind the cattle's where I want to change him. Of my top trio and maybe of my top 3 or 4, this calf is the lightest muscled. He comes at you a little narrow through his chest, wants to fade as you study him there in his pin set, doesn't handle quite with the natural base width of the duo that goes ahead of him. I like a lot of things about the black and white steer that comes next. Boy, on the portrait, he's nicely balanced. He's high tying in his neck. He's got a lot of shape when you study him down his top. I just wish that match down low for him compared to the ones that go ahead of him. He reads a little smaller footed, a little frailer bone than the cattle that go ahead of him. And then we pull him to the lead. He's just a shot high spined, not quite as dead level there out of his hip as the ones that go ahead of him. Red and white steer that comes next, great big boned and really powerful from behind, really a ruggedly designed kind of an individual. Young man, just want to change this one structurally, a little more upright in his shoulder, a little deeper and plainer right down through his chest. I'd like to set his tail head down and into his body a little bit for that one to move up any higher. And then we finish out with a pair of cattle, a market heifer and a gray steer that are loaded with shape. Both these cattle, incredible in terms of width and shape and cutability. I just need to see both these two go better. The black and white heifer is a little straight off of her rear too, a bit more upright in terms of her structure than ideal for me. And the gray steer's wanting to get over in his fronts. If I could change the wheels and change the structure in these two that we finish out with, no doubt they'd work their way to the top end of this particular class. Great group, an outstanding trio on top. If you would, please, let's give them a nice round of applause.
Please bring your Class 3 steers to the show ring. Class 3 steers to the show ring. Class 2, first place went to Mason Golden, Cottonwood 4-H. Second went to Jace Carrasco, Loving 4-H. Third went to Grayson Kirkendall, Cottonwood 4-H. Fourth went to Abby Nichols, Blue Jeans and Boots. Fifth went to Mason Troublefield, Artesia FFA. Sixth went to Grayson Kirkendall, Cottonwood 4-H. And seventh went to Caliber Harvey, Cottonwood 4-H.
Well, we really turned the heat up here in Class 3 on a tremendous trio, even really 4 and 5 deep of this particular class. That a different time and different class, you talk about ones that could work their way to the top. There's no doubt the red and white steer for me wins this particular class. He's my source of structural integrity. He's my source of body. He's my source of power. And yet we couple all that together, and he's as nicely balanced as any we've seen thus far. I'd like to take a speck of chest out of him. I think part of it might be the color pattern, but that's about the only place I'd fault that calf. We get him stopped and parked and put together. He daylights this particular group in terms of quality, balance, and rib cage, and the way he's assembled structurally at the surface, the way this guy grabs ground and gets out and moves is absolutely spot on. And then when we get our hands on him, we get in behind him, he's wide, square, and robust behind his blades. He only gets progressively wider out of his loin, and as we study this top trio, he is the most honest and he's the widest set in terms of his pins. He comes and leaves me with some natural whip. That's a high-end individual to lead off with in this particular class. Congratulations to you. If you'd like to swap 2 and 3, I wouldn't argue with you. At the end of the day, these are show cattle, and I always side with the ones that have that extra look and balance, as long as they're close and they're good in terms of power. That's where the blaze-face steer lands for me. He daylights this particular group in terms of quality. His lines, his assembly, the way he's fit and put together, and his general makeup, for me, is absolutely spot on. His length of neck and the way he sets that onto the apex of his shoulder, the flatness to his shoulder and the roundness to his rib are very, very good. It's muscle when I get in behind him, and that's where I'd like to change him. We compare him to the cattle on either side of him. I'd like to square him up, widen him up about his pins. I'd like to give him just a shot greater, call him a bone. I'd like to have that calf come and leave me with just a shot more general width. But boy, you want to talk about one that's got the look, there is no doubt the young lady's calf here in second has got the look. The calf here in 3, well, there's some nice parts and pieces in this guy. If you like them big-ribbed and big from behind, quickly your eyes drawn to the calf that ends up here in 3rd. For me, he's a little hard in terms of his forerib. When we pull the calf to the lead, we can see it right here. He gets high in his spine, gets a little rounder out of his hip, wants to throw his tail head up in the air, doesn't quite put everything together as nice as those ones that go ahead of me. Big-ended, big-rib, that's a good fat steer there in his own right as well. I'll be honest with you, when the Hereford steer hit the ring, I was like, man, this one's a contender to win this particular class. Just really a real world kind of a calf. Great big round ribs, soft production oriented kind of a calf. You love this one's shape, you love this one's back and general width. A high cutability calf that yet still handles good in terms of fat quality. Young man, it's just structure. The longer that this calf has to get out and get pulled to the lead, gets a little east and west here on his fronts, wants to kind of throw those front 2 out, the longer he wants to struggle here. Really like the slick-haired gray steer here that ends up next, one that you love, this one, shape and power and rib cage. Young lady, just a little plainer for me, a little more jammed up through his front 3rd, a little deeper right down through his chest, gets a little rounder and shorter out of his hip. Wide built kind of a calf. Just want to change this one's look for him to move up much higher. Young man's black steer that follows behind. You talk about a wide built, extremely wide constructed kind of an individual. Hand quality and the way this guy handles down his back is just a little off for me. Just a little soft, just a little spongy there in the way when you get your hands on him for that guy to move up any higher for me. Yellow steer that comes next, boy, you like this one's general build. He's got a great big column of bone, huge footed as we study him here at the surface. Just gets a little rounder and plainer around the edges, a little weak behind his blade, a little deeper about his chest, a little rounder out of his hip, and we couple that with the fact he's not quite as nice in terms of his rib cage as the ones that go ahead of him. I felt more comfortable putting him down here where we did. Red and white steer that comes next, big-ended kind of a calf, not quite as nice in terms of his structure as the ones that go ahead of him. That's why I ended up with him there where he's at. The black steer we finish out with a nicely balanced kind of a calf, got a good look from the side. Young man just need to see a little more to that calf, a little flatter, a little plainer when you get right in behind him. Nice class of cattle, outstanding trio there on the top end. If you would, please, let's give these exhibitors a nice hand on an outstanding set.
Please bring your Class 4 steers to the show ring. Class 4 steers to the show ring. Class 3, first place went to Caden Golden, Artesia FFA. Second went to Bailey Verdon, Artesia FFA. Third went to Jordan Hamill, Artesia FFA. Fourth went to Jack Jarva, Country Clovers. Fifth went to Aubrey Putman, Country Clovers. Sixth went to TJ Crook, Cottonwood 4-H. 7th went to Abby Nichols, Blue Jeans and Boots. 8th went to Kaylee Shockey, Cottonwood 4-H. And 9th went to Stetson Quintanilla, Loving 4-H.
Once again, a high-end class here in this particular group, and I think if a guy really wanted to, he could go a couple different ways. There's maybe not just that quick pull that you want to get, but I'm here to tell you, I think the black and white steer that wins this particular class for this particular show judge wins pretty easy. As we get him stopped and parked and put together, that pretty much tells the story for this guy. He's fresh in his condition as we study him up front, really youthful over the crest of his neck and his assembly down through his chest. He's wide built when you study his rib cage and his back. He is my source of power in this particular group. We pull the calf to the lead. He gets out and moves rather well. A calf that's loaded with shape when you get right in behind him. He simply dominates this top trio in terms of shape and muscularity and just general width and power, and yet still really production oriented in terms of his rib cage. I'd like to square him up, just a shade up front, maybe tuck his shoulder onto him, just a shade smoother right onto his body wall. But boy, you talk about one that's got the look, choke necked, big round rib, huge, powerful, ended from behind, and then when we pull him to the lead, still gets out and moves well. A very, very good place for me to start. I like the black calf here in second, and there's a lot of things you sure like about him. First and foremost, I commend this young lady on an absolutely tremendous job, a hair coat. You talk about one that's got the fresh fur. The young lady's done a tremendous job of working on this calf back at home. From this vantage point, when you study him right here, I read the calf, he just hits me as mature. A little more chest, a little more crest to his neck, a little rougher as you study him there through his skull. And then we get right in behind the cattle, and as we compare him to our top trio, a calf that doesn't have the extra shape and power of the duo that stands on either side of him. I go ahead and slide the calf into the second just because he is good rib. He's got a nice set of running gear at the ground, and when the young lady gets him stopped and parked and put together, he's still got a nice look from the side. Just need to power this guy up when you get in behind him. The red steer is one you like, and the young man's kind of fighting a little bloat and a little feel issues on this calf, and we need to get him back to the stalls and make sure we get him cooled off and get that tended to. But boy, you talk about one that's rugged and the right kind. He's extra shapely. He's very high cutability, got a big stout round rib cage in him. I'd like to see him with just a shot more lower rib, maybe just a bit more fat steer. Look for him to move up any higher. But once again, you talk about loaded with shape and muscle and power. Young man's got a really nice fat steer there in his own right. The yellow steer that comes next, boy, I love this one's extension as you study him up front. Got a great look from the side. He's awesome ribbed as you study him from this vantage point right here. I just wish he put everything together a little nicer. Tuck his chest up into him, pick him up behind his blades, smooth him up in his forerib, but most importantly, as we compare him to the trio ahead of him, we need to square him up in his pin set, make him just a bit more correct off of those rear to and out of his hip compared to the ones that go ahead of him. The shorthorn mark steer that comes next, you love this one from a balance standpoint. He's long spined, he's long necked, he's really smooth built. Young lady, just want to see a shade more to him. He comes at me just a shot an hour right through his chest floor. Doesn't quite have the extra punch and width and power when you get right in behind the cattle. Once again, love this one's length of body, love this one's balance as you study from the side profile. Nice black steer comes next, young lady. Just need to change this one's structure, especially as we view him up front, a shade more upright in his shoulder, not quite as neat in his chest, and wants to get a little east and west here on his fronts. When you get him parked, he's still got a nice look from his shoulder back, level spine, nice hip, got a neat and attractive hip and hind leg. Just want to change his structure a bit for that one to move up any higher. Red and white steer that follows behind him, a powerful kind of individual, kind of the same thing follows. A little open in his shoulder, a little rounder out of his hip, not quite as coordinated when we set this guy into motion. Big body black steer follows in next, and one that you like from his rib cage standpoint. Just need to change this guy in terms of shape and power. So we study him at the surface, a little smaller footed, a little frailer boned, and that just correlates as we study that guy up high. Not quite as much shape and just natural width as the ones that go ahead of him. And the gray steer we finish out with really a long body kind of an individual. Same thing goes for him, young lady. Just want to open him up, give him a shot more shape and power for that guy to move up any higher. Good class of cattle, very competitive there in your top trio. If you would please, let's give them a nice round of applause on an outstanding set.
Please bring Class 5 show steers to the show ring. Class 5 show steers to the show ring. Okay. Class 4, first went to Callie Bennett, Artesia FFA. Second went to Jordan Hamill, Artesia FFA. Third went to Samuel Fodge, Artesia FFA. Fourth went to Grayson Kirkendall, Cottonwood 4-H. 5th went to J.C. Smith Country Clovers. 6th went to Jersey Smith Country Clovers. 7th went to Mason Troublefield Artesia FFA. 8th went to Taylor Kennedy Cottonwood 4-H. 9th went to Allie Elkins Pendiasco 4-H. After class 5, we are going to take a 10-minute break. A 10-minute break, and then we need all first and second places back to the show ring.
What a good class, and I go ahead and make the quick pull on the young man's white steer to win this class. Simply put, this guy's fault-free. He's absolutely white calf simply is just absolutely fault-free. As we study this guy at the surface, he's the truest, most accurate in terms of his structure. When we get in behind the cattle, he's the most honest and the most genuine in terms of his general width and power. His handle quality is absolutely spot on. His rib cage reads very, very good to me. He excels the lineup in terms of width and power and quality and balance. Here as you view him from the side, just a very, very good calf to lead off with. We could take a speck of crest off his neck. I could neaten him up in his chest just ever so slightly. But you talk about one that's got the goods. There's no doubt the white steer wins this class easy for me in this particular group. The black steer that comes next, I love this guy on the side profile. He's got the look. He's dead level in his spine, good hip. Got a beautiful set to his hip and hock and hind leg. You study that calf compared to the white one that goes ahead of him. He's got a speck of throat latch, a little chest, not quite as neat and level out of his hip as the white one that goes ahead of him. Might want to give him just a shot more oomph when you get right in behind him as we compare him to the cattle on either side of him. Still, good calf here that ends up in second. Well, there you can get a look of the young lady's calf here in third and think, man, this guy absolutely daylights this particular group. And then he'll stop, he'll fight the halter, and he looks round-hipped and cresty neck. I just wish this calf put everything together a little nicer for me. You can get an awesome look of him. He's got a nice rib cage in him. He's got some bones, some foot, some power. Want to shove his chest back up into him. Want to level him out of his top and hip and hind leg to make this one move up any higher. Still, good calf. I just wish he'd stop and act like a show animal for a guy to get just a real true honest look of that calf. The red white-footed steer that comes next, boy, slick-haired individual, and there's nothing to hide on this guy. You talk about one that's got the big-time shape down his back and from behind, big, robust-footed as you study him at the ground. It's structure that sorts this guy where he does for me. He'll stop and park and plant just like that and give you a look that absolutely daylights the competition. And then we wait 5 or 10 seconds. He just wants to get a little forward in those front knees for me. I'd like to change the angle of his shoulders, set him back in his knee. Without a doubt, that calf would work his way to the top end of this class in future days. A big, stout bone, big, rugged, kind of a black steer comes next. I wish this calf red was just a shot more body and a shot more power. He's a little more ectomorphic in terms of his design. Here's you study him from the side. A little longer, a little taller. Doesn't quite have that extra punch and width and power as the ones that go ahead of him in this group. I love the moderation of frame. I love the rib cage. I love just the performance-oriented kind of a build that the red and white steer we finish out with has. He's really, really heavy in terms of his condition, and that probably works to his fault. He's a little plainer as you study him up front, a calf that's a little further along in terms of his yield grade, maybe compared to those ones that go ahead of him. Once again, big, stout, round kind of a calf. Just want to lean that guy up for him to move up any higher. Good class of cattle, very competitive there on your top end. Please, let's go ahead, let's join together, and let's give these young people a nice round of applause.
We're going into a 10-minute break. 10-minute break. Class 5, your first place went to Samuel Fodge, Artesia FFA. Second went to Callie Bennett, Artesia FFA. Third went to Grayson Kirkendall, Cottonwood 4-H. Fourth went to Creed Hughes, Zia Sharpshooters. Fifth went to Kendi Burnett, Paniasco 4-H. Sixth went to Mason Troublefield, Artesia FFA. Please bring all your first and second place show steers back to the show ring. All your first and second place steers back to the show ring.
Well, if you would, please, let's join together. Let's give these young people a nice round of applause on an outstanding steer show. Briefly run through your class winners here, and then I'll go grab you guys a couple champions. The young man's black steer we lead off with here out of the first class. If somebody wanted to make the argument that pound for pound and breed for breed and class for class, it's the best animal on the fairgrounds, I wouldn't disagree with you. Young man, I think that calf is absolutely exceptional, just weighing in the thousands. And I guess for me, that might not be quite far enough along. Some people, that is far enough along. But I'm here to tell you, quality, balance, structure, body, and power, without a doubt, young man, I think that thing is one absolute creature that's still standing out here in this drive. And without a doubt for me, that's a calf that's in contention in this particular group. Even for 1,000-something pounder, still handles absolutely tremendous quality, balance, look. That calf's got it going on from every respect. The gray steer that came out of your second class, that was a tough class. There was a lot of give and take in those individuals, and I think as we get this gray steer back out here in your champion drive, I might like him even more here out in the drive than I even did in class. He matches up with your class winners in terms of quality and presence. His bone and structure at the ground are very, very good. When you get in behind the cattle, a calf that's opened up with shape and power. He's big, big hipped. He's long necked. You know, he's green. He's youthful. This calf's got time and future, and so that body's only going to come as he matures. And that's where I'd like to change him. We compare him to those cattle on either side of him. We could soften him up just a shade. But boy, you talk about one that's got the big fat legs, the long skinny neck, and the big hip when you get in behind him. No doubt that calf's very, very good. The red and white steer came out of a good class and a tough class, and I made no bones about it how much I like this individual. In that particular group, he was my source of structure, my source of body, and my source of power, and yet still coupled all that together in a really, really good look. As I think we get this calf back out here in your champion drive, I think he does that even in this particular group as well. He's got a speck of chest, and that's where I'd like to alter this calf. But boy, this guy is sound as a cat. His body is absolutely spot on. Handle quality's very good, and got a shot of power when you get right in behind him. Very, very good individual out of your third class. The black and white steer that came out of class 4, you talk about a powerhouse. There is no doubt. There's not been a calf come through the ring today as wide built as this one. He comes wide, he leaves wide, and he handles wide. He's long, skinny neck. And I love that extra look and attractiveness that this guy has. He's a calf that's really opened up, not only in terms of muscle and body alike, but a calf that's big-boned and big-footed, fit to the max, a really high-quality individual. As he gets out here and we've pulled this calf to the lead and we got cattle on either side of him, I'd like to alter his front structure just a shade. I'd like to attach his shoulder just a little neater and a little tighter onto his body wall. I'd like to square him up in his fronts ever so slightly and set him back just a shade truer there in his knee. But once again, a high-quality calf to come out of that particular class. And Big Whitey that we finish out with, I made no bones about it in that particular class as well. It's hard to punch a hole in this calf. He's sound, he's got body, he's got power, he's got look, and he's got balance. He's not blessed with the hair coat or maybe some of the cattle that go ahead of him, but boy, you talk about one that's functional, you talk about one that handles good, you talk about one that's got the right kind of quality and just the right general build. As we compare him, like a couple that go ahead of him, the red and white steer ahead of him, maybe even the little black one up at the front, you know, if you wanted to get picky on him and just say, man, I'd like to see him just a shade cooler, maybe just a little more tricked out through his front third, I wouldn't argue. If you wanted to soften him in his flank a little, I wouldn't argue with you either. But boy, there you talk about functionality. He's absolutely spot on in terms of filling that and being absolutely perfect in terms of the basics. An outstanding lineup of steers out here before you. Grab or say a few thank yous here before I go grab your champions. First and foremost, a lot of you know them, and a lot of people volunteer at this fair. And I'll promise you, putting on one of these events ain't easy. So before you guys leave today, there's a whole host of people, and the ones that I have spoke to are a bunch of these gentlemen standing with me here. There's a gentleman right back here by the portico by the name of Kevin, and I don't know you very well, but you've been nothing short of extraordinary since the day you invited me to come. Please, let's give these people a nice round of applause. All these gentlemen here in the ring with me, they volunteer their time and they volunteer their days to be here. So from me to you guys, thank you, and thank you for having me. To my guys back home and my beautiful wife, thanks for letting me get out on the road and judge. I've got several more state fairs yet to go this summer that I've got to go to and judge and sort and do the steers and do the heifers and females at some others. And so it's going to be a long summer of traveling for me. It's a wonderful way to start off right here at this particular county fair to kind of kick off my summer of judging. You know, I told Kevin when I got here, I said, he said, well, man, thanks for coming and judging our small fair. There's no problem. I love it. There's nothing better than a good county fair. I was making the comment to some of my guys here in the ring, you know, for a lot of people here ringside, this might be the only show and the only fair that you go to. And so somebody that does go out and judge a lot, state fairs and international, Mexico and Canada, I think it's still special to come back to a county fair. It's local. It has everybody involved, and as you can look ringside, there's grandparents, there's moms, there's dads, and there's little babies and little kids standing ringside. There's nothing more special that you can do in this industry than to involve your family in what you're passionate about. Guys, thank you for involving your families, and thank you for bringing them to the show. Guys, I'll hang up the microphone and I'll go grab you guys some champions. It's been nothing short of a tremendous county fair. I've got a couple of 3 in mind that sort themselves to the top very, very easy, and I'll go show them to you. If you would, please do me the indulgence just one more time, and let's give these young people a nice round of applause, and I'll go grab you guys your champions.
Your grand champion steer went to Caden Golden out of Artesia FFA. And your reserve went to Samuel Fodge out of Artesia FFA. Please give our judge one big round of applause for coming out here to Eddy County today. We also need the showers to stay in the ring. We need pictures for the newspaper.